All right, so in the last video we looked at filter, which is a high order array method, and we saw how it returns a new array, and that's based on a function that returns true or false. Anything that was true would be put into that array. With map, this works a little differently, where the function that we pass in can return anything that we want to be put into this new array. In this example, let's make it a little bigger. In this example, we have some numbers in this array1 variable, and then we're setting this new variable of map1 to that array dot map, and we're saying for each value, they're using x here, but you could use anything, we're taking that value and multiplying it by 2, so they're doubling it. And then that will get put into this new array. So essentially what we're doing is taking this array and then we run it through map, and then we have an array of these numbers doubled. Okay, so what I'm going to do is give you a similar example, and then we'll use the same companies array that we used in the last video and do some stuff with that. So let's just create a numbers variable, and we'll set this to, we'll just do 1 through 5, and then let's create a variable here. We'll call it doubled numbers, make it a little bit more specific than the docs. And then we'll take the original numbers array and do a dot map. That's going to take in a function, and we'll say for each number, then we want to return. And you could either do the short syntax, or you could have curly braces and you could use the return keyword, but this is shorter and cleaner. So let's say number times 2. All right, then we'll go ahead and console log here the doubled numbers. And if we go and we look, we should see 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Now, what I'm returning from this function for each of these elements is each one times 2, but it could be anything. Like, for instance, if I wanted to return a string that had number, space, and then concatenate the number, if I do that, you'll see now it's going to run through the array, it's going to loop through and take each one and just prefix it with the string of number. So now I have an array of that. So you can do absolutely anything here. If I wanted to multiply it by 3 and triple it, we could do that as well. All right, now if you wanted to do this with a for each, I think it's useful to know how to do that. So let's say same with for each. So just like we did with filter when we used a for each, we have to first just create a variable. Let's say double, we'll say double numbers 2, set it to an empty array, and then we could take the original numbers array and loop through. So in here we want to say for each number, then we're going to take the double numbers 2 variable, which is an empty array, and push onto it the number times 2. And then if we console log double numbers 2, oh, I said doubled. Yeah, let's do doubled numbers 2, and now you see it's the same exact thing. So this line is a shorthand for doing this. But now what I want to do is use that companies array that we used in the last video to do a couple things. And again, if you want to pause the video and do some of this on your own, you can do that as well. I would encourage that. So let's say we want to get, or let's say create, an array of company names. Okay, so just an array with just the company name, no objects or anything, just strings. So let's say const company names, and we'll set that to companies, which is our array of objects, and then we want to map through and have a function where we say for each company we just want to return the company dot name. Okay, so that'll run for each element, each object in the array, and get put into a new array. So then let's console log that new array. And there we go. So now we have just a simple array that has all of those company names inside an array with just numbered indexes. Now let's say we want to create a new object that has just the company and the category. So let's say create an array with just company and category. So if you want to pause and try it now, you can do that. So I'm going to call this company info, and let's set that to companies.map and say for each company, let's I'm just going to put a code block here because I'm going to return an object. I could just use parentheses and put my object in that, but instead I'm just going to say return an object, and then name is going to be the company.name, and then category is going to be the company.category. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and console log company info, and let me comment that one out. And you can see now we have an array with all of the companies, but only the category and the name. Okay, because that's all we chose. And there'll be plenty of times where you'll have a bunch of data, but you want to strip some of it out. Like maybe you don't need the start and end dates, so you can simply manipulate that array. Or I mean, this will create a shallow copy, and then you can manipulate that array to have whatever you want in it. Now let's create an array of the length of each company in years. So let's try that. We'll say create an array of the length of each company in years. So it'll just be an array of numbers. So for that, let's say const company years, and let's set that to companies.map. And we'll say for each company, I just want to take the company.end date and just subtract the company.start date. Actually, you know what? Let's make this a little more complicated. Let's say create an array of objects with the name and the length of company in years. So instead of doing what I just did, I think this is a little better. This will, yeah, so we'll do that. We'll say return an object with the name. So we have access to company with all the properties, so name. And then let's create a new property called length, and that's where we'll take the company dot, what is it? Company dot end, subtract the company dot start. Okay, so now let's do a console log of company years. And now we should have objects with the name and the length of years. So 23, 16. All right. And we can even just concatenate in here space years. So 23 years, 16 years. And just to validate that, if we look at company 1, it was from 81 to 2004. So 2001 would be 20, and then we have 3 more, 2, 3, 4. Yep, so that is correct. All right, now another thing that you can do is chain, let's say chain map methods. So you can have more than one map method. Let's say we want to square root, we want to take a number, we want to get the square root and then double it. So I'll call this square. We'll say square and double. And what we'll do is we'll set that to numbers.map. And the first thing I'm going to do is square it. So we'll say for each number, we want to use the math object, and then we'll use sqrt, so square root that number, right? So right now, if I console log this, let's say square and double. So if I do this right now, it's just going to give me the square root, right? Now I want to double it, so what I could do is add an additional map. So this map, which ends right here, just to make this a little cleaner looking, I'm going to put this dot map on the next line. This is what you'll commonly see. Get rid of that semicolon and continue on with a new map, which will take in the square root. And I could call this number if I want, but let's call it square root, because whatever you return from the first map, so this is going to be put into this parameter right here. So now I'm going to take that square root and I'm going to double it, so times 2. So now if we save that, we now have the number square root, and then we take that square root and then we double it. We multiply it by 2. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. And you can have as many of these as you want. Now, just to kind of make it clear on what's going on here, I'm going to give you the long version as well. So let's say const square and double 2. Set that to numbers.map. And what's going on, we're passing in a function, so I'm just going to put a long version in here and pass in here number, right? And then what we're doing from this first function is returning math.square root and passing in the number, okay, for each element in the array. And then when we can add the other map, so here we'll say, you know what, I'm going to put this on a new line as well. And then we'll add our new dot map, or our next dot map. And in here, we're going to put a function. And this is going to be the result of the last map, which will be the square root. So then here, we're going to return the square root multiplied by 2. Okay, so now if I console log square and double 2 and save, we're going to get the same result. So this right here is just a shorter version of this. Just remember, whatever you return from this map will go in here. If I were to have another dot map, whatever I return from here will go into there. In fact, I could say map again and pass in a function. And here, let's just say square root doubled, and then we'll return, let's say, I don't know, let's multiply that. Yeah, we'll just multiply that by 3 and save. Whoops, this should be square root doubled. Okay, I can't access like this variable, this right here, the square root, I can't access it here. What happens is whatever is returned is going to be put into here. Square root doubled. And there we go. All right, so you can also chain with other methods. It doesn't just have to be map. So let's say that we want to, first of all, filter out and just get the even numbers. Then we want to double those even numbers. So let's say chaining multiple, or chaining different methods. So let's see, we still have this numbers right here, right? This numbers array. So that's what I want to use. So I'm going to say const and then even double. So first I want to take numbers and I'm going to filter. You know what, let's make this 10. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so I'm going to say numbers filter, and then for each number I want to, remember we're using filter, so we want to say number, and then we're going to use modulus 2 equals 0. So that should just filter out and give us the even numbers. So let's console log even double. So right now it's just going to give us 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. But now I want to add on a dot map. So I'm going to put this on a new line, get rid of that semicolon, and then do a dot map. So I'm chaining these methods. Here I'm going to get, let's say, number, and it's going to be the result of this, which is going to be an array of an array with the even numbers. So now I'm going to take those numbers, each one, and multiply it by 2. Save that. Now they've been doubled. And you can do this as much as you want. You can have 10 chained methods and they can all be different, all right, as long as it makes sense. So hopefully this is giving you an idea of how these methods work. And there's a lot more. We're not going to look at all of them right now. One more I do want to look at in the next video is reduce.